Al Shalamti. Again I say, Al Shalamti. Tenestalin, Hotep, Wakanda, greetings. Vigilant men, virtuous ladies, and learning students. My names are Dr. Richard Yates, the inventor of GRASPMATYX, Grassmatics, hosting Bible quiz. It is simple. All you need to do is get your Bible, pen, and writing materials, and write down some of the questions you're about to see on this television screen here, on this television station promoting Bible quiz. What is the purpose of Bible quiz? The purpose of Bible quiz is to see how well we KNOW. Because of the language called Grass-ish that teaches grassmatics, I pronounce that word Kenau. My K is never silent in any word. Why? Because letters have no teeth or mouth. Letters can't be silent. It is people who silent the letter. And I will not silent it because every letter of the English so-called alphabet, which I like to call Alpha Z, because you're learning from A to Z and not A to B, Alpha Beta. Each letter can phonetically sound off by you and I. So on this day, we'll get a chance to see more of the questions that were not asked and some of the answers of some of the questions that were asked previous free day they call Friday. As we go straight to the television screen, we'll see some of those questions. What was the last thing the Creator created according to the book of Bereshit? They call Genesis in English. Bereshit in Ivrit or in Hebrew, the name of the book. And in English it is called Genesis. In Genesis of the KJV Bible, it is mentioned in there about the creation of all things. What was the last thing the Creator created? That's the first question on this day. The other question is, why the eating of food is the first temptation? Have you noticed that? The first temptation in the garden, known as Eden, it is about eating, consuming food. I've never read that it's about sex, murder, stealing, or any of those things, or idolatry, etc., that are known as common sins or temptations. Next question, how many times the name Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament? How many times the name Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament? How many times in the New Testament, NT stands for New Testament, Emmanuel is mentioned? So we have two-fold question. We're dealing in the New Testament. How many times the name Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament? And how many times the name Emmanuel is mentioned in the New Testament? Why the name Jesus is mentioned in Matthew chapter 1 and verse 1 and not in the OT? OT stands for Old Testament. It's a simple question, folks. The name Jesus is mentioned in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, the first book of the New Testament, the first chapter, and the first verse. So why is that name mentioned there and he wasn't birthed as yet? Most people say born as yet. However, it is not mentioned in the Old Testament. The question is, why not? Next question. Who said Christ will be called Jesus? In Latin, that name is pronounced Jesus, including, of course, Spanish and other languages, the Latin languages. It is pronounced Jesus. In Greek, it is pronounced Eozus. Only in the English dialect known as language, this name, same spelling in Spanish, this name is pronounced Jesus. Who said Christ would be called Jesus according to the KJV Bible? You see, these are simple questions. Folks, if you can now the Bible, you can call me and answer those Bible quiz questions on this day. If you do not have the answers, I will share with you my answers. However, your answers matters first. I ask the questions, you answer the questions. The numbers are 218-4949 are the numbers to call, 218-4949, and you can choose to answer any of the questions. Or 218-1890, 218-1890. If you'd like more Bible studies or you want to learn more of Bible quiz or the Bible, you can call my personal telephone numbers. That would be 693-3388. Simple numbers to remember and not remember. So the telephone lines open, 218-4949 for you to call and attempt answering the Bible quiz question on this day, or 218-1890. And let's go to the telephone and see who's on the line. Remember, folks, when the phone is ringing, okay, as soon as you hear the phone ringing, you can put your television on mute or turn the volume down so that I can accept your call. Al Shalemti, thanks for calling. Where are you at as you're calling? Okay. Can't hear you. All right. All right. As what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the questions again on the screen, and so that I can make sure that the folks here on the telephone will be ready to, the call can come through. So the first question we saw was what was the last thing the Creator created? What was the last thing the Creator created? All right? Okay. All right. Oh, the phone is not working. Great. So let's go to the telephone and see, for those folks who want to get through on the line, remember the numbers are 218-4949 or 218-1890. Those are the numbers to call and to answer or to attempt answering the questions on this day. The purpose of Bible quiz is so that you don't have to be a Christian to answer those Bible quiz. Why? Because it is said that the Quran is written for the Islamic people or Muslims, the Torah for the Hebrews, the Jews, the Gitas for the Hindus. I'm asking you, who's the Bible written for? Let's go to the phone and see who's on the line. Al Shalemti, thanks for calling. Where are you at as you're calling?
I'm calling from Diamond.
Diamond. It sounds like the braid man, the man that reads the braids.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling. And the questions you desiring to answer on this day would be?
I'd like to try the question with Emmanuel.
What about Emmanuel? Oh, how many times Emmanuel is mentioned in the New Testament?
That's the question?
Yeah. It says how many times the name Emmanuel is mentioned in the New Testament.
Oh, I thought it was the Old Testament.
No, we're doing NT. NT stands for New Testament.
All right.
Do you have any idea?
No.
Oh, okay. What about Jesus? How many times Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament?
I can't remember that.
Okay, but thanks for trying.
And the one with Jesus, who gave him the name?
Oh, yes, that's a good question, right. Who said that Jesus would be his name?
Angel Gabriel?
Angel Gabriel. Angel Gabriel. Yes, that is mentioned. In what book of the New Testament that is mentioned?
I think it's in Luke.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
It's the blind man.
Yes, that's right. We read in the book of Luke that the angel, okay, or angel, that's another good way of pronouncing it, angel, gave the name to Mariam.
Mariam, correct.
Yeah, they called Mary in English. She was not an English girl, so her name wasn't Mary.
Yeah.
She was an African Hebrew,
That's right.
and that's her name was Mariam. And it is mentioned there in Luke that the angel told her to name the child Jesus. Good answer. Yep, you answered that one correctly. Thank you so much, and I hope you do call again and answer the others, okay? Because you're on top of your game.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. Wonderful. Yes, folks, there's only one book in the entire Bible that mention that the angel Gabriel told Mariam, they call in English Mary, to call the child Jesus. Let's go to the telephone. Al Shalamti, thanks for calling. Where are you at as you're calling? Al Shalamti, thanks for calling. Okay, can't hear you. Let's go to the other line. Al Shalamti, thanks for calling. Where are you at as you're calling?
29.
Where are you at?
29, the North Rumfeld.
North Rumfeld. Wonderful. Are you watching the program for the first time?
No.
Oh, you're a regular watcher of the program. Thank you. And how many questions would you like to answer on this day?
1.
Only one of all those nice, simple questions? All right. Which one would you like to answer?
The first one.
And the first question was?
What was the last thing the Creator created?
Aha. And what was the last thing the Creator created?
Animal?
Animal? Interesting answer. Tell you what. I'm glad you called. I'm glad you give your answer. Let's hear what other folks have to say, all right? But thanks for calling.
Okay.
Okay. Folks, it is written, study to show yourself approved. Workman need not be ashamed. Let me add to that verse. It says workman, I say workwoman, and also children need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Both man, woman, and children need to study the Bible. Al Shalamti, thanks for calling. Where are you at as you're calling?
Good afternoon.
Yes.
I'm calling Stronghold.
You said West or South Rumveld?
Stronghold.
East Rumveld? Oh, great. East Rumveld. They say wise people come from the east. Let's see how wise you are. So how many questions you like to answer in this day?
I'd like to attempt the first question.
Oh, the first one at a time, okay? And what was the first thing, the last thing the Creator created?
I think that's woman.
Yes. Congratulations. That's right. The woman was the last thing. The female was the last thing the Creator created. So I don't get it. Why you all always says ladies comes first? I don't get that. You saw y'all got this thing twisted? Y'all always saying that the ladies comes first. The ladies doesn't come first. According to the Bible, the last thing the Creator made was the female.
Yes.
Yeah. So from now on, I hope you're going to correct some folks and tell them, the man comes first. Let him go. Let him go ahead first, all right? So there, that's the correct answer. The last thing the Creator created was she, Adam, the female, all right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And what other question you'd like to attempt answering?
No other.
Come stop it. Don't say no. Say, I'll think about it.
I'll think about it
Thank
and
you.
I'll call back.
Yeah, that sounds...
Anyway,
Uh-huh.
keep up the good work. I'm doing for the first time and I really...
Well, slow down. Are you watching the program for the first time?
Yes.
Well, congratulations to you. East Rumveld, you see? I told you, wise people come from the east. And you did prove that is true. And you're the one to give the correct answer. The last thing the Creator made was the woman. All right?
Got the good word.
Thank you so much. But before you go, let me ask this question. Why would it be the last thing would be the woman the Creator made? Why?
I'm not sure, you know.
You're not sure?
Because God said that Adam was lonely and he needed a companion.
Did the Bible say he was lonely or he was alone?
He was alone.
Oh, big difference. Big difference.
Right.
Big difference. You cannot be lonely for something you never had or missed.
True.
Right? So a lot of people say that he was lonely. They're adding to the scripture. But according to what's written, it said he was alone. Alone and loneliness is two different things. All right? This is the purpose of Bible Quiz. So we can return back on track with the scriptures and not what he said and she said and that person say and all that. Let's go to the Word. The Word is going to be our guide. All right? Well, okay, I'll tell you the reason why before the other people call, because you're the only one on the line. The reason why I think that the Creator made you the female last is because he saved the best for last.
I have to agree with you.
And I bear witness of that. That is the reason why I came from a very beautiful woman called my mother. And I can tell you, the Creator saved her for last, the female, because you're the best.
Yes.
And listen to the irony about that. The last thing, according to what's mentioned in the Bible, that the Creator made was the woman. And the first thing man gets to know is the mother in the womb.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
It's been very
So the first thing, the first person I can now, K-N-O-W, my K is never silent in any word. The first person I can now is my mother before I was told who my father is. Because within the womb, I learned of her. When I came out, she held me and breastfed me. She fed me from within and without.
so true.
That's why I'm saying I am glad the Creator made you all last. Because he saved the best for
Last.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, good. Yes, folks, wonderful. Wise people do come from the east, and the young lady that called, she is not proving it so, she's just testifying it is so. That wise people do come from the east, and she gave the answer correctly. Now, the other questions that we've seen on the board this evening is based on food. Why it is mentioned in the scripture that the first temptation was food? You see that? Why the eating of food is the first temptation? You ever ask, have you ever heard your pastor or priest or apostle or evangelist or Sunday school teacher or Sabbath school teacher ever ask that question? Why the eating of food is the first temptation? All right? That is a very interesting question. And then I did ask how many times the name Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament and how many times the name Emmanuel is mentioned in the New Testament. Now, folks, we were commissioned to study to show ourselves approved. Workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Many of us carry the Bible with us to the point for so many years the pages are falling out and we never study it. So all our treasures and inheritance and wealth is falling out of the book. Why? Because we are not reading and studying and apply it in our lives so that we can be walking scriptures and epistles of who the Creator is and what the prophets represented on earth. All right, let me make the attempt here and try and answering some of those questions since you folks are not calling to answer the question. All right? Now, the reason why food is the first temptation mentioned in the Bible is because it is written that our body is the temple of the Word. I use word. It is said there, Lord. But I prefer to use word. Why? Because it is written in John chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, in the beginning was the, you said it, word. It didn't say Lord. It said word, W-O-R-D, spoken word, which is Emmanuel, the Christ. So, it is written that our body is the temple of the Word. And if we defile it or pollute it, it says the Creator will destroy us. So the first temptation was about keeping the temple clean and not, as they will say, contaminating or contaminate it. Do not contaminate the temple, or do not pollute, or do not violate, or do not transgress against the Creator by defiling his temple. The first temptation was food, because it is also written in the scriptures. It says that the serpent told the woman that if she eats, if she eats of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, note that this particular tree that was located in the midst, meaning in the center, in the middle of the Garden of Eden, it is of two natures, good and evil. Why good and evil? Because all that looks good is not good. It comes as evil disguising as good. So by eating of it, the serpent said unto her that she will become like gods. Wow. So it is about what you consume, put into the mouth, into the body, that make you believe that you'll become greater. For example, there's certain foods we're told to eat that will give us vitamins and proteins and all these different things. There's certain medications we're given and stuff like that we're told is going to help us. And some people don't help them, and then they're sick and they die. The point is simply this. The serpent said unto her that she will become like gods. Note that. The first temptation is about food, and if you eat this particular fruit, she'll become like gods. That is implying to her that she will become something greater than she is. A broken promise, a false promise. Now, disobedience doesn't make you become greater, folks. Obedience is better than sacrifice. It is written in the New Testament that some people make their belly their what? God. They're gluttonous, like to eat. You see the similarity there? Food is what they live for, just to eat, eat, eat. That is their God. That is why that first temptation was about food. And we see that in the book of Luke and Mark, the temptation of Christ. The first thing the devil told him is to what? Make these stones into what? Bread, so that he can eat. You see the similarity there within the woman in the garden and with also Christ? First temptation is about food. Be careful of what you eat, for everything that looks good is not good. It is of the tree of good and evil. That is my take on why the first temptation was about eating, consuming stuff, and believing that is going to help you. Keep in mind, our body is the temple of the Creator. Okay? Now, the question about how many times the name Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament. The name Jesus is mentioned 925 times in the New Testament. Let's go to the phone and see who's on the line. Okay, maybe that was the question they're trying to answer. 925 times it is documentation that the name Jesus is mentioned only in the New Testament and not once in the Old Testament. However, the name Emmanuel is mentioned only, listen to this carefully folks, only once in the New Testament. The name Emmanuel, spelled with the letter E, is mentioned only once in the New Testament. It's mentioned twice in the Old Testament, and it starts with the letter I. You notice in the Old Testament, in the KJV Bible, in the Old Testament, Emmanuel is spelled with the letter I, and when we come in the New and we read in Matthew chapter 1 and verse 2-3, they call it 23, we see it spelled with an E. If you notice that in the King James, the original King James Version, all the other rendition will change that to try to correct it. In the NIV and so on, they'll put I in the Old and I in the New. But when you read the original King James, you see the I in the Old and the E in the New. Are you aware that in Ethiopia it is spelled with the letter A? Emmanuel, and it makes sense. I lived there for 6 years and I studied the ancient scriptures in Ethiopia. Why an A? We'll talk more about that. I have to go. This is your friend Dr. Yates saying thank you so much for watching and for listening and participating in the learning. Remember I told you, call 693-3388 if you want personal Bible studies with me, and I'll be more than happy to help you. I say unto you, as I go, it is the reverse. In saying al shalamti, the reverse is shalamti al. Shalamti al. Shalom, salam, hotep.